Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight and supporting Holly Shorts Film Festival. Let's get the panel started. We have some amazing women here tonight. We have everyone from Women in Film, Miss in the Biz, Femme Fatales, as well as the World Women Network. So we're going to start. I'm going to pass it down. Everyone's going to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their organization and how they came to be here tonight, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Laraya. I'm on the board of Women in Film. I've been involved with Holly Shorts for, I think, 4 years now, and that's why I'm here today.
I'm Emily Lobsons. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm a member and partnerships coordinator for Femme Fatales.
Yay! And I'm Shaz Bennett. I'm a filmmaker, a director, and I'm also the LA chapter leader for the Femme Fatales in Los Angeles.
I'm Helena Santos. I'm the founder and CEO of Biz in the Biz. It is a website / community for written by, and I can't talk, so it's been a long day. Written by and for women in entertainment. Thanks, yeah, I got that out. Yeah, you'll hear more later.
We're busy women. It's okay.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Leah Savoli. I'm an actress producer. I am also with Ms. in the Biz. I am the panel appearance coordinator, and it's over 180 female bloggers now, and we are read in every country now. What? Yeah, every country. Isn't that awesome?
Hi, everybody. I'm Rupa. I'm the CEO of World Women Foundation. It's a global organization. What I mean by that is it's a global stage for women voices in film, and we are in 7 countries, and we are trying to mentor 1 million women in film.
And I'm Jennifer Buonantony. I'm the CEO of Press Pass LA. It's an entertainment website, and we try to get everyone what matters. That's our slogan in Hollywood. So we kind of avoid gossip, and we do a lot of how women got to where they are today, how people in entertainment got to where they are today. And that's kind of where we're going to go in the direction of this panel. So first off, I want to ask you ladies, what brought you here to Hollywood? If you're from California, if you came cross country, because before we can look at the future of the industry, we kind of need to know what brought these women here and how their path started.
Wow. I'm an entertainment and technology attorney, and so I was born and raised in Canada. And one of the few ways to actually be a good entertainment attorney is to leave Canada, because otherwise you have to be a specialist in tax law, because that's essentially what entertainment law is in Canada. So I moved to California to pursue a master's degree in international intellectual property law. And the wisest advice anybody ever gave me was, it's not what you know, it's definitely who you know. So I knew if I wanted to have a good practice in entertainment law, you should go where the entertainment is.
I live in New York, so
We forgive you.
sorry.
Well, tell us what it's like kind of being bi-coastal, coming out here for events and kind of being, in the industry, but back on the East Coast.
Yeah, so I mean, it's there's a huge difference, I think, between the two coasts, and also I actually worked a long time in Europe before moving to New York. So definitely gotten to see different ways in which things get produced and made. And I have to say, I think an exciting thing that's happening right now, at least definitely on both East Coast and West Coast, is this idea of sort of people organizing themselves without there being a bigger corporation or business or some union, which all of those things are great, but I think it's interesting when you can sort of have this grassroots collection and really organize yourself, and that means that it's much easier to be working in all these different places in the world and have these connections and get projects started no matter where you are.
Yeah, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah originally, and I started taking tickets at the U.S. Film Festival, the Sundance Film Festival, when I was 14 years old. So it's that's how I came to Los Angeles, and then ultimately ended up working at Sundance and AFI and LA Film Festival as a film programmer, and always wanting to be a director, and finally kind of took that leap about 5 years ago, and that's my background. But both of us are in the Femme Fatales, which is like a peer-to-peer mentorship of women directors, and there's, it's just once a month we just get together and talk craft and just like really nerd out on like, how would you shoot that? How would you do that? Because we don't always have that opportunity. It's directors only, which I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about our group. But that was one of the things going through film festivals, is all those Q&As I sat through as like a 13, 14-year-old kid. And it's just like, how did you shoot that? How did you do that? And it just felt like sort of so natural. So it took me a little while to get there, but that's how I came to Hollywood.
And now you're answering the questions.
I was born in California, moved to Singapore, the Philippines, and grew up mostly in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Yay, Canada. Canada represent. And my husband and I moved back down here 8 years ago now, I guess. This is we just had our 8-year anniversary in LA. And I started off as an actor. I got my BFA in acting, but I was always a storyteller. I was directing an abridged version of Phantom of the Opera when I was 10. So I was like, there's something more here than just acting. And I started producing and writing. And that was what brought me here. And then Ms. in the Biz started off as I'd been blogging for a bunch of other sites, and I just love the internet, being online, the connectivity of all of that. And I really wanted to create a community that started off online and then move it into real world stuff. So we started off 2 years ago. I went out to 100 of my female friends who were all multi-hyphenates, because that's what I was, like, starting off as an actor and then doing everything else because you have to get your career moving. And we started off with 80. I had 80 women who started off the site with me. And so now, as Leah mentioned, it's ballooned into 180. So that's the inception.
I'm originally from Philadelphia. I went to school for psychology and elementary education. And when I graduated, I ended up on tour with the rock band Poison. So then I decided to move to Hollywood because, I'm friends with Poison, so I'll get a job at like Capitol Records or something. It didn't quite work that way. And I started booking bands and stuff when I got to town. And flash forward a few years, and I realized I wasn't pursuing my dream, which was acting. And then flash forward a few more years, and I realized it was more than just acting. It was also producing and hosting and building a community. Like Helena, I've just always loved the internet. I was a part of all those AOL message boards, back in the day, if I'm dating myself, before MySpace. Yeah, the dial-up message boards. And I've always just loved that, and then meeting someone that you've known online for 10 years and you've never met in person. And that's what Ms. in the Biz is helping. Not just female filmmakers, because we're actually read by more men than women. Just a slight percentage, which is super cool. The guys are like a slight percentage more men. So the guys are like checking us out. They want to know what makes us tick, right? So it's just been amazing being a part of this community and watching it grow.
Thank you. Well, I'm from India, and as you know that we come from a very patriarchal society, and I actually, my parents didn't ever think that I would be getting educated. They thought, I would be getting married to some guy and just have a great life. But that was not my plan, But that wasn't my plan. I ended up studying, technology, and became the first woman from my country to represent United Nations and traveled all over. Yeah. And I traveled like a lot of developing countries, third world countries, and I was representing United Nations to advocate, technology for women. But then I realized, technology cannot stand by its own. It has to have a creative, element to it, which is why I thought, I should reinvent myself and get into films. So I got into Bollywood, worked for 10 years, but when I first asked for a job, the person told me, you got to wear short skirts and wear red nail polish. What? And if you really want that job, and that's that. Yeah. Yeah, and that wasn't my plan either. I said, you have to give me this job. And that's how I got into Bollywood, and I worked with like all the Hollywood studios when they were trying to promote the films in Asia. And then I relocated to LA, like it has been 2 years now. And I started reading with Bliston Entertainment Partners as a script reader. That just happened, you know. And then I thought, you know, even though when I came here, I found like a lot of women try to find their own voice, you know. And I thought this would be an incredible experience. People can say whatever they want, and that is something like an exciting thing, you know. And when I realized like women are still struggling to find their voice here, so I thought I will you know, form a company, a foundation, which is World Women Foundation. It is now in 7 countries, and I have my host here too. She is Arlene Kranz, and she's just great, and she interviews women from all over the world, and we are just we are in most of the Middle East countries, and it's just a great way to collaborate and share the voice all over the world.
So I'll let anybody jump in as we go along here. And I came here actually 11 years ago this week from New Jersey. So again, I came here like most women here.
East
with
Coast.
East Coast. With the Slash, the actor, writer, producer, wanted to do that. And then I sort of fell into the world of websites after having worked in TV production and talent management and writing my own stuff. So that's kind of how I think everyone out there probably understands that. And so everyone touched a little bit upon technology. And today, in terms of getting a short film made or a bigger project, it obviously does have an impact if you have a presence online in social media, in crowdfunding. Do any of you women want to jump in and touch upon how maybe you've utilized social media or crowdfunding to get your projects off the ground? I know financing is one of the most difficult hurdles in getting a production going, or you found it as a disadvantage. Well, either way, if you found it to serve you or you find it as a disadvantage.
Well, I don't think social media has given a lot of power to women all over the world. But the point is, I mean, we are talking about technology, but even still, women don't use technology as such. So it is very important for women to get educated how the technology works. So we got to have some common service centers or places where there can be a lot of peer-to-peer training or exchange of ideas how they can use technology. But I must say, I mean, I came to this country, I met the most incredible people through technology, I must say. And it works really good, but you have to understand a lot of people around the world even do not have access to technology. So there are advantages and disadvantages of having technology, but I think it's an advantage, more or less.
I have a quick question, just because having done a few of these panels before, and I want to make sure, because the topic is to cross-promote, collaborate, and help each other, is to, the biggest thing I've always been told is to know your audience. So I'd like to just do a really quick poll, if my other panelists wouldn't mind. How many people here are actors? Okay, and you can raise your hand more than once. How many people here are writers?
I'm like, just keep that.
How many people are directors? Producers?
Wow.
Entertainment executives or representatives? Okay. All right. Well, that shuts me down for the rest of the conference.
Okay, no, I think
That's good.
I think that's great. So we were on a panel here on Saturday. So my advice was, if you do not have a social media presence, you need one, like yesterday. And if you don't know how it works or you're unfamiliar, find someone that does. Sit down and have a consultation with someone that knows how to work social media. I have a gentleman friend who, not that kind of gentleman friend, that sounded weird, but
We're live streaming
that
this, right?
sounded really weird. But I have a friend who pausing, okay. I have a friend who's been a television actor for decades and decades and decades. You probably know him, you know the shows he's been on. He has 700,000 Twitter followers, and he told me that to this day, when he goes into audition for a series regular or a guest star, as he's leaving that audition, he mentions, by the way, I have 700,000 Twitter followers that will watch the episode that I'm on. So, even for someone with an established career like that, it is necessary. And just to briefly touch on the crowdfunding, I do crowdfunding consultation and management. I've helped raise $2 million in the past 2 years for independent film producers, actors, musicians, authors, you name it. you cannot crowdfund without social media. You just can't.
Yeah, I mean, I did, but
Unless you have like a super, super, super group of close-knit
No,
family
but
and friends.
it's interesting because I mean, I live my whole life online, so I'm not like opposed to anything, but I found crowdfunding very old school in a way. Is that the people who actually donated were emails and and it was sending out Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m., which is super old school sponsorship thing. When people are at their computers, they go, "Oh shit, I should like donate," And it was almost all emails. Like my we did an 18-hour webathon, and it was just like the only reason that we ended up raising $30,000 in one day, which was amazing. But the only way we did it was I hired like 2 people to just send emails to like all my friends, barrage them for the last day, reminding them this is the last day you can do it.
Well, as far as community building and social media, I mean, Ms. in the Biz wouldn't exist if it wasn't for technology and community building and social media. And the thing with that is, like, in this day and age where we're doing everything that's like so uber online, we have to make sure to keep doing stuff like this, where we're meeting in person and actually seeing people face to face and being like, oh my gosh, like I've known you for how long, and we've never met in person, and now I can actually physically know you as a human. But yeah, I mean, it's all about, for me, it's about educating the next generation of female Hollywood power players. That's the whole sort of shtick and thing around the site. And it's all based on entrepreneurship and everybody coming together and collaborating. And it's so easy to get your story told online. Like, there's a woman who wants to talk about the film that she just did and some sort of hardship that she had going through it. You can blog about it and then share that with a gajillion people and then meet other people who have the same experience as you. And that's how the community has grown. And that's also why like men are so tapped into it, is because it's just like this group of awesome people doing awesome things together, which is, I mean, wouldn't exist without the internet.
And to add to what you said, I mean, Press Pass LA wouldn't really have blown up without the collaboration and the sharing. And we have a social media division. We work with a lot of actors, a lot of musicians through the site, and we also work with a lot of casting. And I hear all the time people, giving me that advice that, in the rooms to get projects funded, to get acting roles, to get your script off the ground, they do want to know kind of what your online presence and your online audience is. And I think it's positive because you obviously can amongst each other. If you're all working on something together, you can collaborate in real life, you can collaborate online. And there are some disadvantages, of course, too, where maybe some talent gets overlooked because maybe you don't have a presence online, and that's something like these kind of panels open up for you guys to realize this is something I need to put some focus into. So I'm gonna go to a next question here. So being women, being here in Hollywood, I'm sure you've all had some situations that are uniquely feminine that you've come across, whether they were a challenge or something that surprised you. Do you have any stories that you ladies want to share of maybe when you first were in the business, or even now, where being a woman in the business kind of has an effect on how maybe a business meeting goes or an opportunity goes?
I would say I think it can happen. Like you can have both positive and sort of challenging things happen at all levels. I started out in art department and also particularly in AC because I was really aspiring to be a cinematographer, and I just remember I've sort of grown up I grew up in a family of mostly guys, and I've never really felt like girls can't. I've always sort of been taught like girls can do whatever guys can. That was never a question in my life. And then all through high school and grad school, and then I went in. I remember going in for an AC interview, and I got asked for my headshots, and I got put into the room with all the actresses, and I was like, why do you want my headshots? Like, photos I've taken, and they just could not believe that I was in AC, and then I started paying attention to it more and more, and it made me resist it. I was like, fine, then you know what? I'm gonna also try and grip, and I'm gonna try and do all these things girls aren't supposed to do. And it had two effects. Like sometimes it was like people were like, no way, and other people were really interested in working with someone who was going to do something. And I just think like you're going to have people, no matter whether it's because you're a woman or because you're from a certain region of the world, or you speak a certain language, or you look a certain way. Like people are going to either are going to categorize you. And I just think there's a way to use that to empower yourself and just say, you know what, you think I'm a girl and I can't do this, I'm gonna lift heavier things and do better than everyone else. And I just think that's that's at least like the attitude I took towards it, because otherwise you're just gonna, and I think that's one thing that these, like for instance, Film Fatales, we really empower each other to sort of like embrace like being women and what women can do, as opposed to just sitting around and bitching about like how much sexism affects the industry.
Yeah. And Emily Best, who is the founder and CEO of Seed and Spark, did a really incredible speech that she then put on her blog about this culture of scarcity versus the culture of plenty. And that, like, in all of these, I'm going to totally butcher this, so if Emily, if you hear about this later, I'm sorry if I butcher this, but basically that, like, Hollywood forever obviously has been run by a select group of white men. And now it's changing, and it's changing because of the grassroots. It's changing because all of us are sitting here talking about it, and everybody's creating smaller communities in their little pockets, and we're all galvanizing one another and making things happen. And so now we're living in the time that's the culture of plenty, where it's like, just because you have something doesn't mean that I can't have it too. And it's really exciting that we're in this time, because we're all able to educate one another to keep moving things forward.
I joined Women in Film about, 6 or 7 years ago, because I was looking for a way to, embody the idea of it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I thought, joining the nonprofit would be a great way to network with other women. And being an entertainment attorney and having the clients that I did, and being a lawyer, it's part of your job to be a therapist. So if you're asking me about the stories that my clients have come, crying, calling me at like 10 a.m., saying things like, you'll never believe I just got called into a meeting and, I was let go, or I just found out they're taking my pitch without me, all these different stories, I actually would turn around and then take those stories and talk to some of the women that I'd met through Women in Film. And the great thing about it, it having been around as long as it has, it was founded in 1973, by Tishy Wilkerson Castle, who was the head of the Hollywood Reporter at the time, and Lucille Ball. This is a great place to network with women, because they've seen it, they've done it, they've heard it all. When they talk about things like the casting couch, when they talk about things like, finding out, like recently when Sony had their big WikiLeaks, when their emails got hacked, you found out that the female executives are making, what was it, like 25, 35% of what the male executives were? Like, it's ridiculous, but it's happening. And I think the important thing is, as was recommended here, and if you'll read the book, Miss in the Biz, a lot of those stories are in the blogs. It's a great book, by the way. It's about leveraging this kind of community to know that you're not alone and that you have someone to talk to so that we can overcome it, because we need to be the change that we want to see amongst the community.
Absolutely. The book she referenced, we have a book called Thriving in Hollywood. We have them for sale, $10, and you get a pen and a sticker. But yeah, just to piggyback on that, I mean, sure, I've been here for 16 years. Sure, I have stories I could tell you. But this, what you said about it's not who you know. The late, great A.C. Lyles, who was the head of publicity at Paramount for eons, he was the longest employee there, was a mentor of mine, and he used to say, it's not who you know, it's who knows you, right? And so let that sink in for a second, right? And who knows you and what do they know of you? So if you're constantly out there putting out good work, and when someone brings up your name, it's all pleasantries, well, then people are going to want to work with you. And so with Ms. in the Biz, we've been trying to get more community events offline. So once a month, we do something called Ms. Movie Mondays. So check out the events page, and we basically just gather at a place, whether it's a small theater or the ArcLight, and we go see a female-fronted helmed film, just to get out there. And it's co-ed, everyone's welcome, but it's just about getting out there and supporting the people that are out there doing it.
Putting your money to those people first.
Yeah, just just to add that, when I came from India, and it was a lonely journey for a woman to make it to Bollywood, and behind a screen sometimes it's hard. And when I came to Hollywood, I thought it would be something different. And when I started, approaching some of the largest production companies here, and the first thing they told me, you know what? We think you would be great behind the desk. And for 3 years, I said, okay, but why is that? It's like, because you know what? We need to train you. I said, what is that I have to get trained about? I can face the client. And which is why I just walked out of that room. And then the interesting thing is that at that point, and again, it was a lonely journey. And I was just telling to one of the friend out here that women, if they're in the middle of the water, they know how to swim. They will never sink. So that's how, I said, World Women Foundation, when we started, and we were endorsed by some of the, organizations, unbelievable organizations in Hollywood right now. And the same person, approached me if I can be on the advisory board. So the thing is, like, there will be plenty of people we will meet who would tell you as a woman that you can do it alone. I hear those stories, all the time. But I think we can stand in our power alone to make it happen together.
So you ladies touched a little bit about mentors, and mentors, can be your peers. They can be people who have been here before you and who have been more successful than you, or are where you want to attain to be at. Do any of you have specific mentors that maybe you want to mention, or just the advice they gave you that kind of helped guide you on your journey?
Another plug for women in film is we actually do have a mentoring program, and it's evolved over the years so that it's now actually a circle mentoring program where you have 2 mentors and 8 mentees. And what's great is that everybody really mentors each other. We have people who are writers, we have people who are directors, actors, and because they're all facets of the industry, not only they're able to collaborate on actual projects together, but when the questions come up, they can see different points of view. Because it's not always, some traditional mentoring programs are, okay, we have one actor or casting director and all the mentees are actors. And we find that that's not actually that helpful, because naturally there's competition and politics emerge. But when it's more collaborative, because you're sort of putting together a team, to use a sports analogy, you have your running back, your halfback. It's a great way to sort of have everybody meet their goals moving forward.
The idea that Leah Meyerhofer started the Film Fatales was that it's peer-to-peer mentorship, and that I always use my Magic Castle. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Magic Castle.
If you haven't, you have to go.
If you're a magician at the Magic Castle, you get to go into another room, and the other magicians will show you how to do the magic. And I always thought that was such a cool thing, and that's kind of what I feel like the Film Fatales does, is that we're just each other's magicians. Like, how did you do that fight scene? How did you do this? And so I have had incredible mentors that are much more successful than I am, but then I would say the most meaningful for me are the ones that are people that I'm still interacting with.
Yes. Ms. in the Biz is all about the same peer-to-peer thing, which is what I think is just really awesome about the time we're living in, because it's hard, but it's also like easy to find other people doing the same thing you're doing and other women to collaborate with. And when you're already putting out an energy of like, what are you doing? I'll help you. You help me. Cool. We're all gonna rise together. And that's just like, that's the base of it all. Like, there doesn't have to be any competition anymore. There doesn't have to, there's so much more opportunity, even though it sometimes feels like there isn't. There is so much more opportunity, and we just keep creating more opportunity by this like huge rolling effect of people help like other people. It's just it's just really exciting to live right now, and to like be amongst such cool women, and to be in the audience with all these people who've done like amazing work today at the screening. As far as mentors, there's one woman, her name is Barbara Deutsch. She's a career coach that I've worked with since I was living in Vancouver, and she was the one who really encouraged me to start up community words, but like lean into my gifts. And, as opposed to just trying to be an actor, producer, and a writer and go out that way, to be like, okay, I'm really good with online stuff. I'm really good with creating community and all that outside of filmmaking. So what does that mean? And then Ms. in the Biz was born. So shout out to Barbara Deutsch.
And I absolutely shout out to Barbara. And Barbara has a piece in the book as well. Actually, it's the first piece. But just to touch on accountability and whatnot, so I have a few books that I need to write before I die. And I've written one page so far. And so Helena, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, Ms. in the Biz, for our contributing writers, we do a monthly brunch, and we kind of just, see what's going on and what can each other help each other with. And so we decided together that every Sunday night she's going to text me, and it's just simply, I get a text that says, "This is your writing reminder." Now, I haven't done any writing, but in my defense, I've been moving and all kinds of other stuff, but regardless, so the other day she texts me and she goes, "Should I stop sending these reminders?" And I said, "No, please don't, because soon I'm gonna respond with, yes, I'm writing right now, so just, look around, and who do you have sitting next to you that you can be like, hey, can you send me a text every Wednesday to remind me that I should be, researching or studying or writing or whatever it is." It's great to have friends.
The other thing about living in the social media world is you have access to sort of public mentors, and so I highly recommend that you follow, people that you admire, people who are in the business and outside of the business. For example, somebody who's up and coming, and I'm just so impressed with her rise, is Mindy Kaling. Like, I love, first of all, she's incredibly funny, so she's easy to follow. But, she's forging this really interesting path, burning down all the traditional business models as she moves from traditional television, free TV to cable, to the internet. And, the way she's doing it, using sneakily using branded entertainment. All the fashion that she wears on the show is available for sale. A lot of the furniture is available for sale. It's just so interesting to see something like that happening before our eyes and realizing that we can participate.
Yeah, I would agree. You can find mentors anywhere. I mean, if you see someone, you can reach out in today's day and age. You can literally tweet them, you can Facebook message them, you can send them an email and ask to take them just for coffee. And I've done that, and that's worked for me. And sometimes you don't hear back, but if you send 10 emails and you hear back from one person and you have a coffee with them, you don't know where that relationship will continue to go. And I have people that email me all the time that I don't know, and I try to meet with as many of them as I can. So I just think it's great when everyone can collaborate and help each other. So for you ladies, when did you get to a point where you kind of felt like you could be the mentor? Like, hey, I've made it, or hey, maybe I'm doing something right. I know you touched upon feeling like, oh, I didn't write, you always feel like you didn't do enough in a day or you couldn't get something done. But you must have come to a point where you said, okay, maybe I'm on the path here. Was there a moment for any of you where that kind of just struck home?
Yes, because when you come to a different city or different part of the world, it takes a lot of time to figure out things. I mean, whom to talk, how to use your skills, where to show up. But I think networking has been huge for me. And sometimes I get exhausted because LA is all about networking. But however, every person I meet, I met few people here today, and I must say I learned something, and I could feel like there is some takeaway from that, but it's up to you to say yes to action. Yes, and that's the message when you meet somebody, and you should listen and say yes to action. So I think that's huge, because we meet so many people, we have so much of information, but we don't say yes to action. That's my thing.
That's great. For me, it was, I guess it was about 2.5, 3 years ago. I was tired of being that struggling actor. I was tired of, just barely making rent and barely doing this, and I realized I have so much knowledge that people were always reaching out to me. I was the girl that everyone from back in Philadelphia would be like, hey, my second, third cousin removed is moving to LA. Can you have coffee with them, And so finally, about 2.5, 3 years ago, it dawned on me that that knowledge is actually worth something financially. And I started my own company, started off just doing consultations, calling them coffee chats. I literally put a PayPal button up on my website, and, just put up a little thing of, hey, do you want to talk about headshots? Do you want to talk about this? You want to talk about extra work? What do you want to talk about? And that has grown and blossomed into all kinds of consultations and coaching and management, primarily with the crowdfunding. But it got to a point where, and that's not to say you can't just email and have coffee without charging someone, but there gets a point in your life where you also have to value your time and know your worth. I wrote a blog for Ms. in the Biz called Know Your Worth. And my life did a 360 when I put a price on it and said, you know what, I have been here for a long time, and sure, let's sit down and have coffee. Now, we're probably going to sit down and have coffee, and maybe you paid for that service, but then we become friends or colleagues or coworkers, and no, every time you call me or text me or email me, I'm not going to say, oh, well, let's put you on the clock. But at first, sometimes that might be what you need to do to get some sort of mentor or guidance in your life, is to reach out with people who already have that knowledge.
Okay. I feel like have so much to learn. I don't feel like I know enough. I feel like that's why I surround myself with amazing people who know more than me all the time. Like, I think as soon as you know the most in the room, you're in trouble. Yeah. You gotta keep finding your community. But I also, from a recovering perfectionist point of view, have to realize that I'm never gonna know enough. I'm never gonna get to the point where I feel like I know enough to impart wisdom on somebody. So it's like, there's always somebody who's gonna need your help, no matter where you are in your journey. Yeah.
So real quick, I wanna go down the line, just kind of first thing that pops in your head, but the best piece of advice you got in your time here in LA. And I'll start. Mine was, it was a guy after he insulted me, told me if I wanted to be an actor, I'd have to change some things about my appearance or lose weight or whatnot, and said I should stick to my writing. So after that, then he said to me one thing that I actually took away from, it was like my second week here in LA, and he was a big shot, and he was an alumni. And he said, if you want to make it here in LA, don't leave. That's all he said, and that was the only useful piece of information I took from the conversation. But I always tell other people that, because there's always times where I think, am I doing enough? Should I leave? Should I go back to Jersey? Mom, can I come home? That kind of thing. And I always think, no, if you want to make it, don't leave. And so, a decade later, I'm still here. So that's the advice that I got.
Rupa's ready. No, she's not.
Be interested, not interesting. That's a Barbadoichism, and I try my best to do that all the time. And I said this, we had a panel on Saturday where I said this too, but it's a thing. It's like a problem with actors specifically, because we're so we want our jobs, hire me, and I wrote a piece for Backstage about how to network with filmmakers at film festivals. And one of the things I didn't write in there, but I should have specifically said, is how when you're talking to somebody, actually talk to them. It's this actor problem where we're I'm talking to you, but who's over there? Who's gonna hire me for the next thing? And you don't know, we're connecting, and I think that's it's not about you. So be interested in the other person, not interesting.
You just don't know who you're talking to.
Yeah. Well, we're also humans.
Yeah. How about you just take an interest in people?
Yeah.
I think that, I've had a lot of good advice, but I always think about, just because you're all talking about being actors, and I remember when I first came to LA, I wanted to be an actor, and I'm 6 feet tall, and I would walk in the door, and before I would even say a word, everyone would be like, oh, how tall are you? Yes, I'm tall, I get it, But I remember my teacher at that time said, whatever you are, just be that and more. Don't try and be something you're not, because I would be sort of standing like this, trying to be slightly shorter, and it's that's not helping. So be whatever you are, be that and more.
I'd like to piggyback off of the be interested. That's great. I really like that. In terms of great advice that I've been given, be a person of your word. The thing about LA that I've noticed coming from Toronto is that people are crazy flakes. So, you will stick out if you're the person who's reliable and who shows up and is the person who does what they say they're gonna do. And it's not a crime to do it later. just as long as you do it, and of course apologize if you're not being timely, but I think it's really important to do what you promise to do. If you're gonna be late, because with LA traffic, it's often, like, text, call, just say, hey, I'm running 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes late, because you don't wanna be the person on the other end, waiting for somebody, twiddling their thumbs, wondering if they're ever gonna show up, because it's LA, they might not. And then I guess the other great piece of advice, because I live in the South Bay and Lamomi, I'm sure we'll like this, is get a fast track. It's a really great way of trying to actually get someplace on time in the city.
That's awesome. Like, every piece of advice I've ever been given is running through my head right now, and I'm trying to pull out. But I guess it's just about be you, just get confident in your own skin and show up and be you. And not everyone's gonna like you, and not everyone's gonna wanna work with you, but you're gonna find your tribe. I think it's definitely a game of attrition here, it's the last man standing, so as the years go by, people either, give up, leave town, change careers, whatever it is. So it's kind of like the last man standing. And I think it's your reputation. Your reputation is golden. People are going to want to work with you if, every review they hear, and we all have our bad days, and not everyone's going to get along. But, like you said, honor your word, and if you're going to do something, if I know that the two of us have a project together, I know it's going to get done. Actually, this piggybacks. I did an interview the other day, and the interviewer said, "Oh, I have a question from Helena," and I was like, "Is Helena there?" And he's like, "No, I was talking to her earlier, and she asked, 'Why are you so awesome?'" And I was like, "What?" And then when I thought about it for a second, I said, well, I am so awesome because I have people like her around me who hold me accountable for being awesome, because if I'm not awesome, we're not going to work together anymore. So just be awesome together. That's it. Be awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I just can't think of one right now. And the only thing that just stopped me when I was hearing a lot of no's, when I was, knocking each door, meeting everybody just to make it happen to the business side of Hollywood. And somebody just told me, that person was next to me on the bus because I had no driver license. And that person just told me, no means next opportunity. There is a gift in no. I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So every time the no has always brought in a great gift. So I think there is a gift in no. Yeah.
I think something that's important for us to say too is that we're talking a lot about Los Angeles, but you can have a career anywhere. One of the writers from Is in the Biz, she's moving to Kansas, and she's doing her second feature right now, but then she's moving to Kansas. And I think it's live your life. For me, it's I spent so many years just trying so freaking hard to make shit happen. There's only so many hours, and I was constantly so worried about time running out. And what does that mean? I started growing a garden. Live your life not by Hollywood, the entertainment industry standards. Just enjoy your life, and then art and community can come from that.
You kind of just led into my next question, the gardening, because I was going to say, by all accounts, you women are all very successful, and I know your planners must look crazy like mine. And what do you do to stay sane? When you have those self-doubts, or you're feeling like I should be here, I should be there, what do you do to stay sane? What is it that each of you, you garden? I go to Runyon Canyon with my dogs. What does everybody do here?
I know where every discount massage place in this town is located, and I can give you a review of each one.
Well, we got to try this one first, though.
Right? So I take time out for self-care. If I'm stressed out, I make sure that I will go get that hour massage. I will go to the Korean Day spas. If you're not familiar with them, it's $20, and you can hang out all day, the Olympic spa. And yoga, Pilates, or just saying, you know what, it's okay to stay in tonight and lay on the bed with my cat. It's okay. I took a little bit of break from LA a couple of years ago and went back home for a minute. I sublet at my place and went and stayed with my parents in Philadelphia. And what I found, and I had taken the break to take a rest and relax, but what I found was I was doing the same exact thing here, just running further to auditions and things, and driving to New York and driving to Maryland. And it took me a couple months to say, you know what, Leah, it's okay if the only thing on your day planner today is to go to acupuncture or to go to yoga. So give yourself permission to relax and take time out.
I've been subsisting on vodka, like lately a lot. And
I knew I liked
you.
you.
Whatever works for you personally. I mean, I just finished my first feature film, and I was saying I raised all this money, and then I lost a lot of money, and it's just been low-grade panic attacks and vodka. So.
I just want to thank everyone that came here tonight. You guys were all great. Thank the audience that came here. And thanks to the Holly Shorts Film Festival for having us. And just to close, everyone just say where they can find you quickly on social media. Where I'm at PressPassLA, and at Jen Buonantony is my personal.
At @with_Los Angeles, and you probably can look up on Holly Shorts how to spell my name because it's really difficult.
The handle for the
At Film Fatales NYC is our main one.
You got the business cards and the stickers and stuff, Ms. in the Biz, and then I'm at Ms. Helena, spelled with 2 N's, my first name.
I'm at Leah_Savoli, CEVOLI.
I have to tell, before I give my Twitter handle, how
I
many,
was going to say, if you just said you don't have a Twitter, I was going to.
well, how many of you think, how many women here think they have an incredible story? So I have my women heroes today here. Everybody is a woman hero. And at World Women Foundation, we run a program by the name of Amazing Women in Action. And you could be the women in action. We would love to interview you for that. So my Twitter handle is it's World Women Fund. Women Fund.
And Holly Shorts tweeted it out so you could find us all there.
Yes.
Thanks everybody for coming, and thanks for having us.